I'm really excited about this edition of the Iced Tea session at our office with 300 plus of our best friends in the house at the Dragon office.
Yeah!
I love iced tea. I know. It's so important about the closing mentality, right? I think it's more mental when you're sitting down with people. And when you're sitting down, and there's a lot of objections people tend to have, because when people join Primerica or their first exposure to Primerica, they're wondering, what is it? You know, what is this? There's got to be a catch, because I think Primerica is almost counterculture, right? Because how many times do we work at jobs, or we have in corporate America, that, you know, there's always a tug of war between us and the heads of the company. You know, I want to make more money. Right? Yeah, but they don't want to pay us more money. So why? Because it takes from their profit. So when somebody comes aboard Primerica, they're thinking, man, there's got to be a catch. These guys are very positive. They're always talking to me about doing something special. There must be a catch, right? So we got to work on their mentality, and then we got to overcome a lot of their objections. So I know you have a bunch of questions by some of the teammates, right, about that closing mentality.
Yeah, I know you're really great at closing. So I know some of the guys have some questions, and this first question comes from Herwin. It says, what's your mindset as you're doing an interview or recruiting over the kitchen table?
Right. Like Bill Willow talks about, you know, you got to have that positive expectation. So when you're going into a task, you know, you have to believe, right? You know, maybe psych yourself up, or read a book on positivity, or listen to an audio, talk to the right people. Always make sure that you're in the right state of mind. Right. Or like when you're approaching a task, right? When I'm sitting down with somebody, the goal is like my intention, if I'm sitting down with somebody, right, is to recruit them into the business or make them a client, right? That's got to be the goal. And I can't go into a task thinking, oh, this is probably not going to work out, or they're probably not going to be interested, because the moment that happens, you let that negativity creep in, and there's always going to be some of that, okay? The moment you let that creep in, when you do a presentation, it comes off that way, right? So it's so important. You got to sit down with people, put yourself in a positive state of mind, sit down. You gotta learn the communications, and a lot of this is done through experience as well. So getting that experience over and over, because you're never going to be a pro until you do things over and over and over again. But think about this. Why is it that when somebody's brand new and when they don't know a lot, that's the time where they recruit the most people, right? And then the moment somebody stays around for 6 months, a year, right? And they listen to the audio sometimes, and they understand what they have to prepare for. Their skills are higher, but they tend to get less results. Right. And the reason why is because they let the negatives, right, overcome the positives. So they're going into a task, even though they know more, they're thinking, man, I know what you might say. Now, you got to always be prepared, so that's why it's always going to be a numbers game, right? But you got to go into every task believing that it's going to happen. And that's why you go to work on your skills, right? Always read, always talk, be around the right people, right? Improve, look at everything that you do as a lesson learned, right? Whether you get the results or not, you got to make sure that everything you're always learning along the way. And then like for example, I'll go on an appointment, and maybe I've never heard an objection at that appointment before, right? And then let's say for any reason I don't close, but I got to come out of that appointment, right, with the mindset of, man, you know, if I learn that objection or how to overcome that objection, I'm going to be better now. That family just gave me a reason to get better, right? So now all of a sudden I learned that, right? I do my, whatever it is, right? I role play with myself, right? Whatever it is, I watch videos, or I learned that skill. And now the next family, and it always happens, like 2 or 3 families down the road, that objection comes up again, and I go, now I know how to overcome that one. So you got to be positive about everything that you do. You're never going to be a pro at this in the beginning. I don't care what type of experience. If you've never been part of Primerica, you don't have Primerica experience, right? But what happens is you got to have that positive expectancy, be open-minded to learning, right? And just improve your skills along the way. But every time, make sure that you sit down when you're sitting down with people that I'm gonna close this, right? Or I'm gonna get something from it. I'm gonna learn a lesson from it, or whatever it is. Look at it positively.
Yeah, positive expectancy. Wow, there were so many nuggets in there. This question comes from Judith Moskova. Her question is,
Judith, yes.
If someone says they need to check in with their partner, or someone for that matter, to make a decision to come on board, what's a way that you can overcome that? And a twofold is, what if they also say that they don't have, they need time to think about it as well?
Hey, watch, if somebody has somebody in their life that they consult with, and I'm only meeting with that one person individually, I mean, it's only natural to think that they need to consult with someone, right? So when I meet with somebody, like let's say if I sat down with Judith, and let's say she is married, I know she's married, then I want to turn that into an appointment. I'm sitting down with Judith, and we got to understand that people make decisions together with their spouse, okay?
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to try to close her into something. In fact, I probably wouldn't have sat down with her in the first place, right? Or maybe just to create that curiosity. Right, but the next appointment is, hey, Judith, listen, I perfectly understand, and I wouldn't want you to make the decision on your own if they told you they don't want to make the decision on their own. But I definitely want the chance to sit down with your spouse. Now, let me ask you a question. You're excited about what we do, right? And you're serious about what we do, right? So if you're serious about what we do, who's better to explain to your spouse, you or me? Because right now, you don't have that experience. He's going to have questions, and you don't have the answers yet. But if you put me in front of him to explain to him what you're going to be doing, right? And I want to build a relationship with him. I want him to be comfortable with you working with me. And then great things are going to come from that. So I absolutely, nobody's going to be, very rarely is a spouse supportive before they meet you. Right, especially in the Northeast, you know what I mean? So we want to make sure. Watch, if I recruit somebody who's 18 or 19 years old into the company and they're younger, right? I want to get together with their not their spouse, but their parents immediately, or whoever is taking care of them, or whoever they value. I want to get together immediately, because even if I put their paperwork in, and they're within 24 hours. They're going to try to back out. Oh, I've been thinking about it. But if I turn that into an appointment with their parents, or even sitting down with their parents to explain to the parents what I'm going to be working with your child. I want you to be comfortable with me. I want you to understand that they're in good hands, right? So I want to build a relationship with the unit versus the individual.
You're sharing value,
right? Because it's always going to come up down the road.
And I noticed also, as you were asking those questions, your tonality change. I know sometimes people can kind of just say things.
Came out.
Your accent, Brooklyn accent came out a little bit. Also on the same note, if someone says, I just need time to think about this, or, I just need a little, how would you overcome that?
No, I absolutely understand that you want time to think about it, because you've been working and at a job, right? If that's what their background is, right? You don't want to bring up something that they're not doing, okay? But you got to know a little bit about them. So I know, and you always want to relate, tell your story a little bit. When I first came aboard, I was 23 years old. I was working a job, right? I started working 14, 15 years old, right? And everything I thought from that point forward was go trade time for money, right? It was a salary or hourly. So all of a sudden, now I was 23. I was younger, right, when I came in. So, but I was programmed for 10 years, 15 years, 23 years to think a certain way. So one meeting isn't going to change the way you think. Okay, an hour and a half or an hour doing a presentation or an opportunity meeting isn't going to completely change the way you think. So there's always going to be questions that come up, right? So people are going to want to think about it. Now, me, I was looking. I was looking for something. So I was willing to come aboard as I had questions. but some people are not that way. So I perfectly understand that you have questions, right? And rightfully so, okay? But if you don't mind me asking, what are some of the questions you have? What is it that what is it that you need to know so that I can help you get started here? So I want to know what those objections are, okay? I know you want to do your research, okay? But just like the opportunity meeting talked about, right? Like there's a lot of companies before Primerica became its own entity, right? There were a lot of people that invested in the company,
Right.
and they had to do their research. Their research wasn't just going on a search engine, all right, to look up the company, because anybody, it's not a regulated space.
Right.
Anybody could put something there, right or wrong. Anybody can put something there, right? So what happens is, I wanna sit down with you, right? And you wanna make sure you consider the source, right or wrong, right? You don't wanna get information. When I came in, you know what, one thing my cousin said? One of my cousins, I have a lot of cousins, okay? A lot of cousins. But one of my cousins asked me, he goes, what are you getting involved in? I knew somebody that tried that before. And then what I said was, I looked at it, and this is what I tell, I explained to him, because I want to tell my story. I want them to relate. My cousin, and then I looked and I said, wait a moment, right? Common sense says, my cousin is not financially where I want to be.
Right.
So why would I take advice from someone who is somewhere where I never want to be? Right? So that's common sense. So I explained that to the new person. So I understand, but if I give you all the answers, if you have questions and I have the answers, if I'm able to go over all the answers with you and you feel comfortable, would you be able to move ahead?
Yes,
Would you be able to? Okay,
absolutely.
so let's sit down, okay, let's do the research together. I'm gonna show you facts versus what somebody just throws on the internet.
So
okay?
you're not running from the questions, you're
Absolutely
going right
not.
into them.
Absolutely
so because
not.
sometimes people, they can be afraid of saying, oh, I don't want to answer those questions. They'll run away
And
from it, but you're
they go
running
around,
into them.
and they end up with somebody that's not interested down the road, right? So you have to make sure that you overcome the objections up front, right? Because some people would just put in their paperwork just to leave. But the point is,
Right.
our goal now. People, most people, well, a lot of people, no matter what you do and how you overcome the objections, they're still going to go. Okay, but you can save the ones that can be saved.
Absolutely.
Right? Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's the mentality going in.
Yeah,
right?
great job, Glenn. I think that
Okay,
this
cool.
answers a lot of questions for
Right.
people, and hopefully, people, the people all over get a lot out of what you just
Appreciate
covered.
it. No,
So
thank
great
you,
job.
thank you. And obviously, every question you're asking me, you do a better job than I do on it. Okay.
Thank you so much.